The Muppets are back! Smurfs movie gets its first trailer. The Looney Tunes movie gets its last trailer. Tom and Jerry celebrate their 85th. All this and more in this week's Cartoon News Roundup. Okay, so this is our first Smurfs movie from Paramount Animation. Of course, we had 3 Smurfs movies from Sony Pictures Animation over the last 15 years or so. They lost the rights to the series and Viacom picked them up some time ago, and finally we're getting this kind of long gestating Smurfs movie. At one point, it was originally supposed to be produced by Nickelodeon, and then they dropped out of the production and Paramount Animation kind of went it alone. This has been being worked up as a wholly original take on the Smurfs, something that we've never seen in film. It's something that's supposed to be so completely different to the Sony movies. The director has been out in the press saying they're taking huge inspirations from the comic books and it's going to be very comic booky. And it's also been kind of inferred that this is going to be a wholly animated Smurfs movie like The Lost Village was a few years ago. But now we're getting this trailer, and everything we're hearing about this is kind of seeming somewhat false. This looks almost like every Smurfs thing we've had in the last few years. The designs here are actually incredibly similar to the designs that Sony Pictures Animation used in The Lost Village. They're also incredibly similar to what was used in the Smurfs TV series, a French series, and Nickelodeon picked up the North American distribution rights on it. Sure, they have gone back to the designs from the comics, the original Peyo comics, but again, it's nothing that we haven't seen in the previous Smurf series or in The Lost Village. The first 2 Smurfs movies had this kind of photorealistic CGI look, and then they changed that with The Lost Village. So this does move away from that, but again, this is not anything incredibly revelatory. They've also taken on this hybrid animation style, which is really overrunning Hollywood at the moment. It was fun at first. Of course, Spider-Verse really kind of pioneered it when it comes to feature films. Hollywood has been running rampant with this, and the Smurfs have used it here. Probably the worst case I've seen it being used in a major film. It kind of looks cheap. It looks a little bit tacky. It looks like the characters have been left unrendered. I just am not entirely on board with the animation style here. On to the point about this being a wholly animated Smurfs movie. No, we're going back to what Sony did with those first 2 movies, and it's a hybrid animated live-action film where the Smurfs are transported from the Smurf village and thrown into the real world. I don't know if this is going to take up a huge chunk of the movie because we actually don't get a lot of live action stuff in the trailer. So it could be that it's just a small sequence in the film. Most of the trailer is animated. But I feel like we're just going to get something that's exactly like what we got from Sony all those years ago. On top of that, this movie just doesn't look very good in the slightest. This looks like the bare minimum thing you could do with the Smurfs. Those original Smurfs comics are so fun and vibrant and clever and funny. And that's kind of what we were promised. But it looks like we've just gone back to really simple, kind of bottom of the barrel, easy to produce Smurfs material. I feel like especially these Hollywood animation studios just can't quite grasp the heart of those original Peyo comics. They've also attempted to, as Hollywood always does now, and particularly with these animated films, kind of make it new and modern and fresh for the new kid audiences. And that's something that kind of really annoys me, because it dates the movie. Those original Peyo comics are so classic and so timeless, because there's not a great deal about them that seemed very, relevant or of the time. They're timeless little stories that don't make reference to socio-economics or the current landscape of pop culture. We can see here that they have utilized all the kind of speech bubbles and thought bubbles and all those kind of dynamic comic booky things that we have been promised from this, but I don't feel like it goes that whole extra mile that we have been expecting. Some people went as far as saying that this could be a traditionally animated, 2D animated hand-drawn film. Of course it was never going to be that, But it would have been nice to see them take a kind of risk like that on a property like this in 2025. But again, of course, that was never going to happen. I mean, we've already seen in the past that the Smurfs can work in hand-drawn animation. There was that fantastic Hanna-Barbera animated series from the 1980s. And I say that I'm not a huge Smurfs fan, but I really liked that show when I was a kid. And that really had that heart and soul of those Peyo comics. I mean, all Paramount needed to do was look back at that series and kind of get some inspiration about what they could do with this movie. Even if they were going to do it in this CG animation, that series is kind of the benchmark of what we can do with the Smurfs in visual media. And I feel like we're just straying further and further away with that with each passing production. This movie goes so far as to put an influencer Smurf in there. A little Smurf that's dancing around for YouTube. Like, what are we doing here? Not only this, but this movie feels like Trolls. Like they've Trollsified the Smurfs. They've gone, hey, there's other movies about these little guys where they were dancing around and singing and stuff, did really well. So let's do that, but with the Smurfs. I think it's crazy. Like, nothing here is original. I'm not the biggest Smurfs fan ever, so I wasn't particularly excited for this, and I can't say I'm particularly let down by this. But I would like to see them do something fun with this, something exciting, something that doesn't seem like it's aiming to the lowest denominator in the audience, the really, really young children who they just think, oh, just throw anything on the screen and they'll be, entertained. I think this movie is going to be very poor. I don't like to judge based solely on a trailer, but by going by this, I just don't get the best feeling of this film, if this is like the best bits that we're being shown. At the end of the day, I will always stay positive, and I will keep my hopes up that in the next trailer something completely blows us away, but this has not made the best first impression. Okay, this is a really quick one. It is, of course, Super Bowl day, something that I really don't care about at all. American football is something that I can't get into. So this is something that I'm really excited to see. Stitch absolutely wreaking havoc at the Super Bowl game. This is just a short 30-second promo that Disney have thrown up there. Stitch has gotten onto the field of the game and is again causing an absolute scene. Field officials run after him and try and catch him, but he of course gets away on a cart and causes even more havoc somehow. This is a really fun spot because it plays into that really playful nature of Stitch and that original Lilo and Stitch movie, and they have absolutely been knocking it out of the park with these little promo spots for this movie. I also love that we get to hear some newly recorded Stitch dialogue from Chris Sanders here as well. I'm so happy that Sanders has returned to the role and they didn't get someone else to step in. I mean, you just can't. This character is so iconic and Sanders' performance is just so brilliant. You can't replace him. We still haven't got a full trailer yet. We still haven't had our first look at Mia Kealoha as Lilo, but Disney is working up this film really, really well. They need a hit with this. Their live-action remakes almost consistently banked $1 billion at the box office up until the last few years. Their last few have not been received that well, whether that be at the box office or on Disney+. This is the kind of marketing that Disney hasn't played around with ever since perhaps that crazy marketing from the original Lilo and Stitch movie back in the day. And again, I just love that they're playing into that playful nature of that promo campaign. Again, not a lot to look at here, but I wanted to spotlight this one because it is a whole lot of fun and some of you out there may have missed it. An official trailer for this one can't be too far off just now. The movie opens in theaters on May 23rd, 2025. As with every year, some fantastic new commercials debuted during this year's Super Bowl. And this year, the crew from the Muppets reared their head in a brand new Booking.com advert. Craziest thing here, the ad has officially become the highest watched commercial of this year's Super Bowl. The commercial, which sees the Muppets away on a beach holiday, cleared 88 million views before it debuted during the Super Bowl's fourth quarter, thanks to the short being debuted on YouTube more than a week earlier. And there's no real surprise here, because this is a very good, very funny commercial. Somehow, this commercial, in like 15 seconds of Muppet screen time, has managed to capture the true essence of these characters, unlike any other project Disney has produced in probably the last 10 years or so. Now, at the time I'm producing this video, the commercial has a near 94 million views, and will probably be very close to clearing 100 million by the time I publish it. Compare this to some other high-profile trailers released during the Super Bowl this year, such as Marvel's Thunderbolts, which has 9.4 million, Paramount's Smurfs, which has 5 million, Paramount's Mission Impossible 8, which has barely crossed 1 million, and Universal's Jurassic World Rebirth, which lags behind with only 960,000. The Muppets are certainly due for an update, and the release of this trailer perhaps proves that people are finally ready for it. With nostalgia at an all-time high, it's time for a proper Muppets reboot that return them to their true adult-oriented, zany nature. Of course, it's gotta be kid-friendly because everyone of all ages loves the Muppets. Though one does wonder whether this is something that Disney can manage in 2025, as they've somehow ground down the characters into near irrelevancy. Hopefully Disney is taking note, and we all know that they are. If anything will convince them something is working in this streaming era, it's really good numbers. That's right, our boys are turning 85 this year, and to celebrate, Warner Brothers have announced a mass promotional campaign, or as they're calling it, a year-long global celebration across merchandise and visual media, with, as the studio says, new products, content, experiences, and more. In a press release put out by the studio, it was revealed that the Warner Brothers shop will launch a brand new Tom & Jerry 85th anniversary collection on February 24th, featuring apparel and homeware. While there's only a couple of 85th anniversary items for sale on the store so far, Warner's have provided a promo image showing off some of the new products, including a glass tumbler, a mug, and a couple of t-shirts. Warner Brothers has also launched a variety of collaborations with various global partners to celebrate the anniversary. Many of these have already launched, while some will launch later in the year. Akuo Brazil will release a Tom & Jerry Say Cheese collection of apparel. Boyhood will release a collection of wooden figures at the end of March. Kakao Taiwan has already launched their collection of themed gear. Casetify have launched a large, sprawling collection of phone cases and accessories. Cetaphil China has released a special edition Tom & Jerry moisturizing cream. Converse will launch a gigantic collection of shoes and apparel, including a series of 5 special edition shoes across Chuck Taylor All-Stars and Chuck 70s. They'll be available in kids and adult sizes from March 6th. Cuidado con el Perro in Mexico will release a limited edition t-shirt in June, which will join an already expansive Tom & Jerry collection. Duck Brazil has launched a collection of notebooks and stationery. Funko has released 2 new Tom & Jerry pop vinyls. Havaianas Brazil have released a special edition pair of flip-flops. Hoyland China have released a line of special Tom & Jerry desserts, including a cheesecake, cheese biscuits, and butter sandwich. House of Silage will release an opulent fragrance in an exquisitely designed bottle featuring the duo. Jada Toys will release a die-cast 1/24 scale 2015 Dodge Challenger Hellcat car with a die-cast Jerry figure. Lionel has released a collection of special edition train boxcars. Loungefly will launch a special edition collection later in the year. Mad Beauty have released a collection of beauty, bath and body goodies in a fresh, nostalgic, retro-inspired look. Own Days will release a collection of spectacle frames later in the year. Price Shoes Mexico will release a collection of anniversary purses in February. Roosevelt will launch a collection of soft and stylish button-down shirts in March. Rhino Shield has also released a collection of Tom & Jerry themed hard cases for mobile phones. Sensei has released a collection of kids apparel, and Tully's Coffee Japan will release a limited time only cup design featuring Tuffy, and other products featuring Japan's Tom & Jerry anime. Aurora Italia, Beast Kingdom, Carlo Rhino, Daiso, Jinwoo, Max Sports, Pustaka, and Vision Toy will also launch collaborations, though there are currently no details. Additionally, Warner's press release details a number of Tom and Jerry marathons and content collections being released globally across Cartoon Network, Boomerang, Cartoonito, Max, and YouTube throughout the year. Additionally, as announced already, the Tom and Jerry CinemaScope collection will also be available on Blu-ray on February 11th. The set includes all 23 widescreen wonders collected together for the first time on Blu-ray as originally seen in theaters, along with 3 bonus Spike and Tyke spin-off cartoons. A series of global experiences have also been announced, including an attempted food world record break at Warner Bros. World Abu Dhabi, a special Tom and Jerry diner which will open in Japan, a Tom and Jerry exhibition which will tour Japan, and a Tom and Jerry pop-up event activation at China's Cheese Day festivities. The only thing missing from the press release is the announcement of a new Tom and Jerry production, though we do know that a new theatrical feature film is in the works, and I wouldn't be surprised to hear some kind of official announcement for it sometime this year. That said, new Tom and Jerry Gokko anime shorts are due to release later in the year. Okay, so we all know we've got a live-action remake of How to Train Your Dragon on the way, and our first full-length trailer is here. There's probably not a great deal to say about this, much of it comes directly from the teaser trailer which we got a couple of months back, though we do get a few new looks at some of the dragons and some of the supporting characters that didn't get a huge screen time in the first trailer. There's quite a huge focus on Stoic the Vast here, who is of course portrayed again by Gerard Butler, who voiced the character in the animated films. He looks fantastic and totally fit for the part. We actually get quite a bit of Astrid in this trailer too, who was pretty much absent from the teaser trailer. Most interestingly, a lot of the scenes she appears in here were in the teaser, but had her cut out of them. This is a move that a lot of studios make in trailers by manipulating heavy CGI'd scenes for one reason or another. It's possible they wanted to work up the big reveal of Astrid in this trailer, but I think the studio had another motive here, especially as they released behind-the-scenes footage of Astrid alongside that first teaser. Of course, we have Nico Parker in the role of Astrid, a casting which has caused all kinds of controversy online, from "why isn't her hair blonde" to "why isn't her skin white?" Parker, who, by the way, is the only member of the core cast with Scandinavian ancestry and is 3/4 English and 1/4 Nigerian, has met with plenty of backlash for taking up the role, and I'm almost certain that the studio expected this and tried to keep her out of as much of that initial promo as possible. They could have done this to protect Nico, but more than likely they probably did it to protect themselves from backlash. But Astrid is here now, and I think she looks great, say what you will. This movie looks fun and entertaining and genuinely looks very well made. I'm almost certain it's going to be a great time at the theatre, but we do have to ask, why are we doing this? The original How to Train Your Dragon came out 15 years ago, the third installment in that trilogy came out only 6 years ago. I'm not against remakes, but this one feels like the most baffling and unnecessary one of these animation to live action things that we've had so far. Of course, when you compare some of the scenes from the trailers alone to the original movie, they were near shot-for-shot replication. According to journalist Brandon Davis, director Dean Dubois, who directed both versions of the film, has mentioned that they barely changed the script between versions. This seems pretty wild to me. If you're going to remake one of these things, surely your focus is on adding something new to the story, a new, different take on the source. Granted, Dubois also had this to say in a new interview on Davis's Phase Hero podcast.
I always felt like, in terms of the mythology, I wanted to explain where these warriors came from, why they were there on that island, what they were up to. We get to explore that in a much better way. And then there were characters that were underserved, Astrid being one of them, I think. As much as I like the character in the animated movie, I felt like, had we the time, I would have given her a little more character depth and understand where she's coming from and what she has to lose by siding with Hiccup in this story. So we were really able to play into that acrimonious relationship from the beginning and how it develops and how ultimately she becomes his biggest supporter and the first convert to his way of thinking when it comes to dragons.
This gives me a little bit of hope that maybe we will be seeing some new stuff, but how substantial will it be? Interestingly, when you break it down, this new version has a newly revealed runtime of 1 hour and 56 minutes, while the original runs for 1 hour and 38 minutes. That's around a 20-minute discrepancy here, so here's hoping we do get some substantial differences, and this difference in time isn't just a matter of extra long credits and a slightly slower live-action pacing. Whatever it may be, I'm sold on seeing this, and I'm sure it's going to be pretty enjoyable, but there's a lot of caveats going into it. I'm hoping they do something great with this, and we don't leave disappointed. Finally, after months of waiting, North American distributor Ketchup Entertainment has finally released the first wholly new US-centric trailer for upcoming Looney Tunes movie The Day the Earth Blew Up, just a few weeks after moving its release date. The trailer only runs for 1 minute, but is a more plot-heavy trailer, finally giving fans a flavour of the film's story instead of focusing solely on the loony antics of Porky and Daffy. This also lands only a couple of weeks since the Australian distributor Pinnacle Films released their own localised version of the trailer, and announced that in Australia and New Zealand the film would go under a slightly different title, emphasising the Looney Tunes brand. One of the biggest complaints from fans has been that Ketchup are doing very little to promote the film, but hopefully with the movie only a month and a half away, this is a sign that the campaign is about to kick off. Though the movie has moved to a March 14 release date in the USA, it appears that tickets still aren't available through AMC or other major theatre chains, but as the marketing is hopefully ramping up, we should see ticketing open up soon. For the record, the movie opens in Australian theatres on March 27th. I can't speculate much on this film anymore as I have seen it. If you want to check out my coverage of the film's Australian premiere, including a quick Q&A with Eric Bowser, you can find that video linked just at the end. I'll also have a review going live very soon, and once that's up, you can find that linked too. Thanks for joining me for another Cartoon News Roundup. What stories were you most excited to hear this week, and what are you hoping to hear in the upcoming news? As always, join the conversation down below.